Both Jelani and Sasha talked about the ability for others to dehumanize another individual and carry out these acts globally and here in this country. You've been active in seeking justice in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery by white vigilantes. This was something that compelled you to use your powerful voice to stand up and say something. What do you believe the events that we saw in that video, that awful murder, what does that tell you about hate in America today?
You know, it's interesting, Tamara. Sasha and Jelani both touched on it. Imagery is so powerful, right? You just said that we saw the video of Ahmaud Arbery. We all know that we saw what happened to George Floyd. I work in media. That's what I do. I'm a producer. I create images. There is nothing more powerful than being able to pour imagery, perspective into someone's mind. It is so much easier to oppress someone, to treat someone badly, to even murder someone if you see them as less than, if you see them as dehumanized. So for me, it starts with, in terms of my work and the folks, my peers within the industry, we are battling against centuries of images that have shown Black people as less than, something to be oppressed, something to be dehumanized, right? So when you look at, and you know, Nicole touched on it earlier, because we have the power now of the video, the visual medium that you can see these egregious atrocities, we are now able to combat and show the humanity of someone like a George Floyd, like an Ahmaud Arbery. But way before they're ever put in a position where their lives are at stake, someone has a perspective about a Black man, a Black woman. And if we can get in front of controlling that perspective, we can go a long way towards, as a society, getting to where we need to be, understanding that people are equal and human and should be treated as such. But the imagery is so powerful, and we're battling so many years of negative imagery that I'm trying to make sure that with the imagery that I put out and with the work that I'm doing with people who sometimes don't even understand where their perspectives come from. But if you always see a Black person as a criminal, be it in a movie, be it on the news, be it on social media, you know, be it on the meme banks that Sasha was talking about, if that's how you see them, then that it affects you. It gets into your head. That's how you start to view them, and that's how you treat them.
Brandon, speaking of imagery, to follow what Will was saying, you've taken part in protests against police brutality as an NFL player, using the power of the imagery of taking the knee. You knew that this would invite criticism, perhaps negative reaction. I don't know if any of us saw the latest developments coming. But nevertheless, to Will's point, to counter the images that we often see in the news and in other outlets in film, you were a part of the wave to say, let me take this image and try to control it. Were you prepared for the wave, though, of criticism that followed?
Absolutely, I was. You know, before I decided to take a knee, you know, it was actually the night before my first game, and I really sat and thought to myself, and I was like, okay, Brandon, you know what comes with this. You know, you can lose endorsements, you can get backlash, you can, you know, everything that can come with it. So, you know, I decided to take a knee, and I didn't care about it. When I laid my head in that pillow that night, I realized that if I didn't take a knee, I would be doing myself a disservice and disservice to the people that don't have a voice as loud as mine. So I decided to do it. And lo and behold, I did lose those endorsements. You know, I lost 2. And, you know, then I received backlash. And then I received a threatening letter. Someone said they was going to put me in a wheelchair and call me all sorts of derogatory terms and racial slurs. But, you know, to me, you know, that didn't stop me. That didn't stop me because I knew this was for the greater good. And I knew what this, you know, what could come of this. And it was my, I had the opportunity and it was my responsibility, you know, to, you know, speak up and to demonstrate and do what I believed in.
It's been referred to, that moment, Jelani, as you well know, as a snapshot, some say, of America today. And Will, going back to the imagery of it all, here we are again discussing the removal of Confederate monuments. And even down to what we have in our refrigerators as breakfast cereal and the images on those things. How do symbols and monuments play a role in this now? I often refer to Germany and the removal of Nazi history as the comparison that many people make here of the importance of the removal of these Confederate monuments. But we're in the year 2020, and to Jelani's point, some of these conversations are almost rote.
You know, there's a something that happens within our subconscious when the power structure uplifts, say, for instance, these Confederate soldiers and generals who fought to say that slavery was an institution that America had a right to enact and to be a part of and to enforce. When you lift them up as heroes, there is something subconscious that happens in the mind of a Black person, even a Black person that is not subject to slavery today, to the kind of physical slavery that the Confederate soldiers were pushing for. It implies, it puts on a type of mental slavery because you have the power structure, the country in which you live saying, these are our heroes. Make no mistake, we want to lift them up and lift them on pedestal. Now, it's become totally politicized today. You have people that have no particular connection to, you know, the Confederate flag or imagery, and they're just saying, well, we got a right to do it. You know, it's our heritage. But at no other time would you say people who rebelled against the country, who were on the losing side, would you say that they need to be lifted up? But what it is, and a lot of this does happen in the areas in the Deep South where you have some generationally ingrained perspectives that are very, very entrenched, right? You have people that are saying, this is us. Power sees nothing without demand. This country is becoming more diverse every day. It's becoming more progressive every day. And you have some people saying, well, what about us? And this just feels like another attack on us. So to your point, Chairman, when you think about the imagery, be it, you know, a syrup bottle, a rice, Uncle Ben's, whatever it is, right? When you go back to those tropes, to those caricatures of Black people, and you're still putting them up, right? Whether it's on your grocery shelf, whether it's on the name of your school or on some monument, you're saying that's what we as a country and as a power system are about, and that's what we want to support. We got to tear those down. We got to be honest about it, first and foremost. Then we got to tear them down, or you'll never have the next generations to be able to put in true systemic equality in this country.